8:28 p.m. And we do have a quorum. We'd like to welcome our guest. Did anybody sign up? No. Okay. And we'll go to item number 4, budget workshop.
Good evening, Board Superintendent Torres. So we're just going to start at the top of the documents that I attached in the budget workshop. So first is the department and campus budgets. I don't think you've seen it this way before. This is how I'm accustomed to doing it. So you'll see on here what their budget was for the fiscal year 24-25, and then what their proposed budget for 25-26 that has already been discussed with everybody. You'll also see the percent of change. So I know it's been asked in the past, was everybody cut? And the answer is yes, except there's a couple that were not. Let's see, insurance and bonding was not cut because it's not going down. We did get good news that property insurance does not look to be going up this year as drastically as it has the last couple of years, although our auto insurance is going to go up. Legal services, we budgeted a little bit more this year. It's better to have it in there. You can see we're budgeting $28,000 on that. Substitute contracts, we've got almost a 30% increase. So with a bigger fill rate comes a bigger dollar amount. So that's where that's coming from. Assistant superintendent really didn't have a budget. So you'll see that he's got a $3,000 budget. So that's a 100% increase. Utilities have historically, when I look back for the last 5 years, have not been budgeted to what we've been expending at Venus. I'm not sure why. We're going to hit it this year, but the only reason we're going to hit it is because we only have 10 months worth of utilities rather than 12 months. So you'll see a big increase there, but that's really what we've been spending. Yes, sir.
Are we doing anything district-wide, any incentive programs to reduce that cost? Are there campus competitions to where if your electricity bill drops 10%, then you get maybe your campus gets $1,000? Or I've asked and I keep getting told, oh, we're working on that. I guess to everybody, if we had a competition every month where each campus competed at $1,000, if we saved $26,000 but spent $12,000 on, or how long are we at 9 months? Mm-hmm. But we only spend $9,000 on incentives, it goes into their principal's activity or something like that. But if we can save by turning out lights and making sure the middle school gym air conditioner isn't on 68 degrees in the middle of the summer, or, with nobody's there, I just.
Hey, turn the microphone on since we're streaming. Sorry.
I forgot what we were saying.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm just curious about incentives like that. If anything's even been discussed to do that, I don't know if that's the budget time to discuss that or not. But I mean, sometimes if you spend $10,000 and we only save $10,000, then it's a wash, and we don't do it again. But for a year now, I've been asking, and I haven't gotten any. So I'm just curious where we are on that proposal.
Okay, I think we should ask that at the end of it. Does anybody have any extra questions?
Okay.
We should ask that at the end where we have anybody extra questions. Thank you, Kirby. I do have one question on you though on that one. I actually, okay, so I do see on the utilities where it is, you say we're just budgeting for what we're actually spending. That makes a whole lot of sense. My question is, I've slept. So the gentleman that came out and did the proposal, did we sign up for that where we were going to start earning some of that money back?
We have not at this time.
Okay. That was just a proposal. I didn't know if we voted on that.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Not at this. You're welcome. You also see the central appraisal went up 22.71%. That is the best educated guess I can get. The appraisal always goes up, so we don't have any dollars from them. It's just my guess. Summer school, it looks like we're paying most of that out of title, but we don't have anything allocated in 199. So I like to have some budgeted at 199. If we don't need it, if we can pay for it all out of title, then that's great. We won't spend that line item, but I'd rather budget for it and have it there. And if we need it, we need it. And if we don't, we don't. Yes, sir.
How much does summer school normally cost? Most of that's coming out of title,
Most of it's coming out of title.
but we're still allocating 75,000 out of, or is all of our title funds gone?
No, we will be able to pay for it out of title. I'm just budgeting 75,000 for next year. We don't have our title allocations yet. I'm supposed to get those sometime this week or next week, but we do hear that title allocations are going to be lower this year than they have been. So I'd rather budget for summer school so we can afford it.
You were new, you weren't here yet. We had a huge deal this year about all the title funds was redacted from the campuses and taken away. So that normally comes out of title funds. And now that for the first time, now we're budgeting $75,000 out of a different account. It makes me feel like title funds were all spent somewhere else. But if you're telling me
No.
it's not, okay.
No, it is not. I'd rather have a cushion in there than have to come to the board and say, we didn't budget enough for summer school and we don't have the money. Can we take it out of fund balance? You're welcome.
Can I ask a question about let me find it, sorry.
You're fine.
Is it on this one? The legal services?
Yes.
So I know I had asked this question before. We're going up 31.15%, and Dr. Torres and I had talked a little bit about kind of why, but can you tell me what we actually spent out of 2024-25 that would cause us to think that we need that much more?
Lanny can look that up because I don't have, Lanny can look that up. So
Okay.
we'll get back to you when he gets me that number.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's, again, kind of like the other. It's better to allocate more in there and not spend it. If we don't spend it, it just goes back in fund balance.
The only reason why I say that, because I also asked a question about the superintendent budget and the board budget, is because, yes, if we don't spend it, but if we're talking about a balanced budget, we still have to account for it. So
Yes.
that still could put us in a deficit budget if we're allocating it to something or if we're overshooting. Because I was asking for the board budget, how much did we spend last year versus just the reduction 10%? Because can our board budget maybe be reduced a little bit more? Like what all goes into that? Because I know our training and things like that goes into it, but
Right.
kind of where were we at hitting that budget, and can we be a little bit more aggressive with maybe reducing some of those as well?
So the board budget, as of last night, the board has spent $21,438, and the superintendent has spent $27,602. Now your conference again for this coming school year is in Houston, so that's another overnight travel, not like it's in Dallas. So right now, as of today, we've spent just shy of $14,000 in legal, with another about $5,000 encumbered. So I can decrease that if we think that.
I was just wondering what the projection for the increase would be, and if we didn't really spend near what we already budgeted this year, what would be the need to increase it even more?
I think in the past years, you've been really close to hitting the budget amount. This year, we're gonna be under, but this year's not a great year to look at that because you're only gonna have 10 months. So last year, you were closer to spending that whole amount.
And I would think with numerous contracts coming up with the construction of a new high school, that I think we would have
That's the justification.
Stephen
Okay.
look at all those, so.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, was just kind of the justification.
Yeah.
And I guess,
We would foresee. Go ahead.
and just looking at everybody being cognizant, is if there was a way to, if those were all phone calls to the attorney, if there's a way that we could better, I don't wanna say better run, cause that sounds like that's an insult, but if we could do stuff to where we're not having to make so many phone calls to, I know there's times we call that, but that's every one of those is a billable hour that you every time you call them on the phone. So I didn't know if, looking at everybody together, if there's a way we could maybe make a conscious effort to reduce that,
Well,
you know.
with these changes
Right. I'm just asking if, like we've asked our teachers to look back at what we can do to conserve electricity, et cetera. If there's a way we can conserve $7,000, then.
So I know in past experiences, if it's something generic that maybe TASB Legal can answer for me, then I've used them in the past because they're free. So, but sometimes they'll refer you, to your school attorney.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
On, where'd it go? The library budget.
Library, yes.
What does that $69,000 budgeted for? Like what? I just don't know much about library.
Library books is probably the biggest chunk of that.
It's like replacing them or
Yes.
just buying new ones?
Replacing them, buying new ones. Some repairs sometimes to library books as children have,
All their summer stuff, does that come out of, like, all their summer programs they do, does that come out of library budget too? Because I know that they have, like, random stuff going on all summer long.
So you'll see right underneath library, there's a community
okay.
library. So that comes out of that.
Okay.
Well, I asked that because the second part of my question is about the police department.
Mm-hmm.
We spend more on a library than a police department, than our police, and both of them. I mean, I realize we're cutting all the budgets, but I mean, it's twice as much on library as police department.
I
I'm
think
just curious.
your police department main expense is on the payroll side, which isn't on their supply side.
Okay.
So
So this is just
supplies. This is
spending
not.
budget for
This is
equipment,
their
stuff like
spending budgets.
Okay.
This is not payroll.
all of those. Okay.
Yeah. So the police overall, their chunk is on payroll.
Have we gone back to the city and asked them now that the city seems to have more money than they used to? The city used to contribute to the community library because it was both a municipal.
Yes, I can speak to that. I've been in ongoing talks with the mayor, the city manager, for over 6 months now, back and forth, asking for, I believe they give us $1,000. And so that dated back to an MOU from 1995. And so, in fact, I got another response, but over 6 months going back and forth trying to justify, give them bills. We've given them everything possible that we have, and we feel that they should help to support more than $1,000 in what we pay, because it is for our kids and our community. So we're waiting. Well, I just got something just a few days ago from the city manager, and we're going to respond back. They're consistently asking for more documentation. We've given them everything that we know of. So we're hoping that they can contribute more. I understand that financially it's tough for them as well. But it was an MOU, was started in 1995 of $1,000. And so just to run the clinics and the camps and the things that we do in the summer is, way exceeds that. So I've asked, we're grateful for anything, but we would certainly would love a tremendous increase on that.
Grateful for anything or do your part. There's two ways of looking at that. We're definitely grateful for anything, but there's a point where do your part. So
Post district, this is going to be budgeted a little bit different. The campuses like VMS had kind of had that within their budget. So post district will come out of my office instead of their budget, just to make it cleaner, and that doesn't need to be budgeted at the campus levels. That's for like if Taffy goes to nationals, those kind of things. If the football team goes to regionals or area or something like that. Replacement plan. This is a new. The $80,000 that we have in there for 24-25 was within the maintenance budget for some flooring and some HVAC. So we've pulled that out of their individual budget and put it at a replacement plan. So that's the beginning of a replacement plan. You'll see that we're adding $193,000 to that this year. That is for a new phone system, a bus, and very little of it is a SPED AED unit. So the majority of that, about $140,000, is a bus. Longevity pay. Yes, ma'am.
So the replacement plan is going to include a bus.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that come out of transportation?
So yes and no. So it's going to come out of the replacement plan category code, but it will be charged to function 34 under transportation. So if you the theory is we don't necessarily have to buy a bus every year. Most of the time that's what we would like to do, but this year we didn't budget a bus. So by pulling it out of her budget, sets it aside from what's her day-to-day operating. Because she's not going to, because what happens if if I put $140,000 in there and then I leave, I'm not going to, but but then somebody else doesn't, yes, I'd have to play, but yes, so. And somebody else comes along and you don't need a bus that year, then transportation's got $140,000 sitting over there that they can use then for anything when it was really intended for a bus in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. We budgeted for many years for buses and a lot of.
It pulls it out, but still has it accessible if needed.
Yes,
It's just
yes,
not there. I
yes.
got
Longevity, we kind of looked at the people that we currently have on longevity and who we know that was retiring. And so we feel like $219,000 for next year is sufficient if everybody stays. Retirement doesn't appear that it's been budgeted. So we pay about $25,000 out on people that retire if they've got local days left. So we're just putting that in as a line item and planning for it.
We currently pay daily rate
Yes,
for all their local days up to 30.
yes.
What if all three principals retire this next year?
Well, then I might have undershot that. But
And the reason there's no hidden meaning for anybody listening to
No.
that. It's just, but all three are at retirement age, so it's not a retirement time. So I just for budgeting standpoint, what if, just a what if, okay? Because at your daily rate for a principal, not to mention somebody in administration or something
Right.
like that who makes in the, in those 80s or 90s, then that could be substantial.
it could. And I guess at that point,
That'll be just general fund then.
yeah. And typically, there's probably enough that during the year, some of our staff, sometimes it's FMLA, sometimes we have babies, and so we have some docs that we've done throughout the year, and that probably can help add to that because that's going to be budgeted over in payroll, and I didn't spend it all.
Maybe not a question for right now, but we currently pay, if you retire, we pay you for your local days at your daily rate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come here and you've only taught here of 2 years and you don't use any of your days, we're going to pay you for 10 days at your daily rate. Is there ever been a discussion on giving a limit like you have to work here 5 years to be eligible or anything like that?
Let me go back. I don't know the policy well enough to know. I thought there was something in it, but let me go back and I will get that answer to Dr. Torres and he can get that out to you.
Can I ask about the $400,000 for athletics?
Yes.
Why? That seems, I mean, is there a big replacement coming? Is there a big expenditure coming up for that, or is that a standard?
That's a decrease of $75,000.
I realize that, but what is the athletics department spending $400,000 on?
You figure every sport that you have, all the travel that you have, I mean, shoulder pads, helmets, just baseballs.
Right, but are we replacing that every year?
Well, it's staggered, it depends, they're on rotations, yeah.
Yeah, the sports are on rotation, so they'll like this year is softball uniforms, or next year will be basketball uniforms. I mean, they're on a rotation typically with uniforms and stuff.
I only say that because it's an alarmingly large difference between athletics and CTE. And CTE, to me, in my view, is geared for jobs, to help these kids get into careers, all that stuff. Not many athletics going to go on to be athletic jobs.
Think about the enrollment too, though.
The enrollment?
Yeah, Like think about the enrollment with like how many kids play athletics and how many kids are enrolled in those CT programs. You probably have.
No, I agree, but I'm thinking future-wise. Is athletics where you want the largest percentage of our school to be, something like that to be functioned towards, or can we start, or should we start? I think, yes, start gearing more towards that technical environment and just building that up more.
I agree with you, for the exception of most of our kids that come to school because of sports. I mean, and I hate to say that, they come because they need something to do. And it provides their meals, their transportation, their balls,
Right, 'cause
their
the money's
basket.
there.
Yeah.
And it could do the
Well,
same
but
thing
I mean,
for the
CTE gets the same thing. I mean,
But-
they get,
I just think that.
SCT is funded from other funding sources as well as not just that 103.
CTE. So you've got 103 at the high school and then 45,000 at VMS.
Right.
So I will make the same comment as I've done about everything else, is that leadership-wise, possibly having that kind, I know for a fact, 3 sports did a great budget dump in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. 3 pairs of shoes for the coach, with no sport left to go. So I don't know if that's a procedural or if that's a policy thing of if we give a sport $5,000 as a budget, that money should be spent relatively close to the beginning of that sport, because that money ought to be allotted to those kids. Kind of like TEA says, this is money supposed to be spent on the kids of 24, 25. So to have that many people dumping budget, buying personal shoes for themselves or buying personal clothes for themselves at the end of the sport, that money didn't go to the kids. It just went to, that's something leadership-wise, whether it be athletic director, superintendent, whatever, we may be able to, but if you trim $200 here and $500 here and $1,000 here, in a district this size, you come up with a sizable amount. So I don't know who approves that ultimately when those POs come in. That's kind of.
I'm the ultimate approver, and I will say, I'm not going to say I caught everything, but I think if you talk to staff and to administrators, that more was kicked back this year and more questions were asked this year than they had been in the past. I'm not going to by any means say I was perfect.
And definitely not a critique. That was
No.
not.
I just want you to know there was some of that pushback, and at times I felt like they had my head over there with some darts, because I'm like, really, at the end of the school year we need this, because you've got 2 weeks of school left. I don't know that we need this.
But
So,
as an administrator,
yeah,
you should be able to justify. If you need it, let's get it. But
yeah.
if you decline it, give me a justification for it, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that wasn't a critique. It was just another way that possibly we could scrape up a few $10,000 here and there. If we do that on every account, then
yeah. One I didn't. So CTE, you'll notice that they did not get a decrease, and that's because we've got to spend the 55%. So I don't feel like at this point decreasing them would get us to there. And you'll also see bilingual. I missed that at the top. I'm sorry. They had an increase this year, and it's because we have not been giving them the money that they need for their 55%.
which is required.
Yeah. Any other questions on this? Was this helpful?
It was compared to what we did last year. Oh, yeah. I think we had 5 line items and just said a long budget cut to the code. So that was very good. So thank you.
You're welcome. And Lanny's here with me, and I will say that he worked meticulously to get those things broken out so that we can make it easier. So, good job. Yes, thank you, Lanny.
That and your dodgeball skills.
Okay, the next thing that we're going to look at is a retention stipend. So this is an idea to get our staff some more additional funds in their pockets. So we have 348 full-time employees. I'm counting bus drivers as a full-time employee. The one part-time employee we have is in child nutrition. So we're doing a 10-month budget this year. So we're gonna save some money. So one idea is that we could do a one-time retention stipend to pay to staff on convocation day, one time only, and basically give back to them for part of what we saved for this year.
Totally separate from any raises.
Yes.
Raise talk.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I would say that we would gross it up so that $500 or $1,000 actually is what it goes into their bank. So you can see the numbers there. Scenario 1 at $500, giving $500 to all the full-time employees. The part-time employee would only get $250. In this scenario, it would cost us a little over $179,000. To do $1,000 would be a little over $358,000. So this is just an idea of something that we could do on top of raises. We would communicate very clearly that this is a one-time this year because of this.
And only for returners.
Only for returners. You don't get it. You're not eligible.
So like HR group, no, I'm just kidding.
So that's just an idea that we thought of.
What would your recommendation be budget-wise on, do you feel like we can pull the scenario 2?
I do feel like we can pull the scenario 2. So that would not be a balanced budget. That's going to actually come out of fund balance because you're going to put the money in this year into fund balance. So this year at the end of June 30th, you're going to put more than that into fund balance. So then it would be a one-time stipend of taking that money out of fund balance for that we put in this year.
So what's your recommendation?
My recommendation would be the $1,000. That is scenario 2. You're welcome. Okay, campus stipends. I guess maybe this might be better if I'm going to go over the new ones and then you guys shoot me with your questions and okay? Well, middle school, we're adding soccer next year. So our recommendation would be to add 3 soccer stipends at VMS for $500 each. And that was a recommendation from the athletic director. In your handout, page 2. I'm sorry, it's in the red. It's in the red.
I was gonna say, all the new changes are red.
Sorry. We have a blended learning manager grant funded on the books, but that position no longer exists, so we're just striking that out. The other one that we're adding is the LSSP for two stipends at $5,000 each.
We have 2 of those positions open.
We do have 2 positions. Yes, we have 1 position open. We also have a diag open. We're trying to get 2 LSSPs instead of an LSSP and a diag because the LSSP, and Kelly, you can help me if I mess this up. The LSSP can do what a diag could do, so that's really in Venus's best interest is to have the 2 LSSPs. So that's why we're asking for 2 stipends.
Okay, and we haven't hired a LSSP at all, correct?
Correct.
Got it.
We have one we're trying, but. And we've been spending a lot of money on a contractor to do that. And we're not alone, but the stipend would help get them here and still save money on Venus.
Is that available special ed funds or is that going to impact your budget?
It will come out of special ed. It'll come out of their weighted funding, but it will come out of 199. Mm-hmm.
Randall, can you just keep your mic on?
All right, stipend questions from the board.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay,
On the high school, I noticed that we have 0 for Key Club sponsor.
I don't think currently we have a key club.
We,
Yeah.
that sponsor left right before Christmas,
But,
Okay,
and we just haven't filled it.
but,
so we need to change that to one stipend at $500 then.
I mean, I think the Key Club is a very important
I would-
part of what's
yeah.
going on here.
Well, we've allotted $500 for it, we just don't have a person in it right now.
Yeah. So that really should have said 1 and 500 across, so we'll make that correction.
Just, I don't want the ire of everyone, but I'm counting 5 band directors.
Well, you have
Yes.
high
And
school
we
and
have
middle school,
we have a
right?
head middle school band director that makes $1,000 less than your overall high school band director.
For a stipend, yes.
Okay. That just seems like for a 4A district, coming from a 6A district where they had 4 band directors in the entire district, and that just seems a little skewed, but like I said, that's,
Can I ask a question? What's the difference in an assistant band director and an assistant coach? Because if we have 9,000 for an assistant band director, but we have
For
like
2
our
stipends. So it's 2 at 4,500 each.
Oh, okay, so we're not increasing it to 9,000.
No, that's just the
Okay,
total of how much
okay.
we're spending.
Okay.
And that's something I added, so that's different than how you've had it before, but I'm like, the board should be approving how many stipends instead of just a stipend, because then,
I know money's limited, but I've kind of sent out information just to figure out program. You know, look at this, that TSA, we have almost 200 kids in TSA, correct?
yeah, I think
That
TSA
probably-
is big.
That probably surpasses the number of kids in maybe not overall athletics, but it would come close. So 400,000, and the stipends they get, would we give any thought to raising that TSI? There's only, how many coaches are there, 3? Are there 4? Well, one of them's a lead coach, and then there's 3 more.
There's 4 total.
I just don't know
There's 4 at the high school? 4 total at the high school?
no, there's 1 at the high school and
3 at middle school.
well, one of them is the she's getting a stipend from as a director somewhere,
Yeah.
or as the
Okay.
STEM director up there in middle school. Just a thought of being that's a year-round program and the number of participants they have, if we would consider going up to what we would pay what do the high school coaches get or the middle school coaches get per sport?
Middle school per
it-
sport
is it
gets
still-
$17.50.
How much?
$17.50.
I mean, it's not massive, but it's
So an extra $750.
times 3.
Times 4.
Well,
3 at the
Oh.
middle school and 1 at the high school.
oh, okay. I didn't know if that included the TSA STEM director, because they already get 5,000. Would they get this? They wouldn't get the 1752, would they? Or they're
Well, we've got 1 TSA coach at the high school for $1,000 currently.
Yeah, right. One of the other 3.
So I would think we would want to be consistent. If TSA coach is $17.50 at the middle school, you'd want
Oh,
to
no,
be consistent
oh,
and make that
well, there-
$17.50 at the high
Are
school.
there 3 at the middle school and 1 at the high school? Or
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Yeah,
Yes.
whatever's equal to
Yeah.
everybody. I wasn't trying to separate anybody. I just
Yeah, and one thing too, though, I think that their days they do work a much longer contract too. They work through the summer. I mean, they're there working. They get paid, but they're working in the summer, and because kids are up there. I mean, we've got a very successful TSA program, but they're there in the summer working with the kids and
I
making
mean, every
them
year they're
come.
going to national. It's a week. It's state is weekends. Not to say anybody else isn't putting the time in too. I just think that program at the success level they've reached so far.
Can I go back to assistant band director?
Yes?
Oh, I'm
Sorry. That's okay. So they're getting 4,500 and our assistant coaches are getting 3,000?
Yes, per sport.
So this is only one program, which is 4,500. Why would they not be in the 3,000 category with the other assistants?
I'm gonna guess, because I wasn't here when they did that, but band is more year-round, where the $3,000 is one sport. So
they may be
a
assistant
coach
for
could-
basketball and then assistant for another.
Most coaches would get like 9,000. It'd be a assistant football assistant, and then they
Well,
have
if
at
we're
least.
just doing longevity of like, I mean,
But basketball doesn't last a full year. It's only 3 months. Band is a full.
but they're still
full year.
coaching the sport. I mean, yeah, their season only lasts, but they're still, I
Well,
mean,
Assistant band director will work a full year for 4,500.
Mm-hmm.
A typical assistant coach will work a full year for 9,000, because they'll have 3 sports. So they're working the same hours, plus the band gets 10 days, I think, don't they?
Yeah.
They get
In
10
the
days,
summer.
and coaches get 10 days. That's for their summertime. So, in essence, if you look at an assistant coach, they're working a full calendar year for 9,000. Because if they have 3 sports, if they only have 2 sports, they're working for 6,000. Where assistant band director works in a full year,
Doing the same.
they would actually make
And-
less. So, is that the point you're making? Is that
I
Well-
mean,
Kirby, and your foot or your sports, they do have to carry 2 sports, right? They do have to work 2. They can't just say they're going to go in and work baseball, or they can't go in and just work
They can't.
basketball.
It depends,
We've
but
got one who
for the
just does
most
soccer.
part too, we've got several that do 3, just because we've been short coaches. I mean, that's
well, I
another
mean, on the
issue,
girls'
but
side, yeah,
yes.
but I mean,
I didn't know. I didn't know if you were making a point that the band should make
round.
more or band should make less. I wasn't sure.
I was just trying to say, like, I mean, even our middle school assistant band director makes the 4,500. I mean, everything at the middle
But he's
school is
doing
reduced.
band for the full year.
Yeah, but they don't do near what the high school does.
But the basketball coach is only doing basketball for a smaller period of time.
They might have practice, but they're not going to games and doing competitions, is what we're saying.
No, but what I'm saying is, I get band is stretched out over the duration of a year, but if we're talking about, like, I get that they do things throughout the year, but if we're talking about, because one coach, we do have coaches who will coach one, and some of them do coach multiple, but in that one season, that coach may be gone for 3 solid months doing all of their games, and a band director may only have 3 or 4 competitions to go to. You see what I'm saying? Like, that is spread out throughout the year. And our coaches are there all summer who do summer workouts, which band does pick up in July, but our coaches start summer workouts in June. So I mean, I get the thing of it, but I'm talking about more consistency within that program. Is that not only do our middle school, I definitely think should be reduced. I mean, I don't think that our middle school assistant band director should be making the same as our high school assistant band director. I think that there's a lot that goes into high school because they march. Our middle school does not.
Don't our middle school band directors go help the high school?
Yes, I think
Well, I
so.
don't know how we have like 4 or 5 over the high school.
Yeah, but I think they all go and like they do the morning stuff and all.
Well,
of
at the
that.
high school, there's 1 band director and 2 assistant, and
And
at
one,
the high
one
s-
goes back and forth.
yeah, there's one.
Well,
I mean-
actually, they all come over and help. No, they work very good, but we have 5 total. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know we had a. Never mind.
Yes.
So everybody that helps from the middle school to the high school, they're all also getting, because I mean, we have several that kind of interchange back and forth. So
Right. We have 2 band
are we
directors.
accounting for that? That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't know. I mean,
am I alone in that boat? I can't be.
You
That's
are.
fine.
You're alone.
I mean, I'm trying to make
Yeah.
it more consistent across the board. I'm just trying to justify the 4,500 for a middle school versus.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question though. On here, it says at the high school. Let's just go to the high school, and it says UIL academic coordinator is 1, but then it says UIL academic event coaches, and there's nobody there. And it says paid in May, but it has nothing. So are we not paying our coaches?
Yes, they get $250 per event. We get pay that in May. And when I did this, I didn't know how many coaches we have. So that's why because there's no number,
Okay.
because this is Excel. So there's no number there for number of stipends. So that's why it zeroed out.
Okay, but we are paying them
Yes.
for, okay.
Yes. They get
Okay.
$250 per event. That's
Okay.
paid in May.
Okay.
And do we need to circle back, Randall, to what you were talking about for the
TSA.
The TSA.
I would
Coaches.
I know it's not a formal vote or anything like that, but I would like to see that to be equal of a junior high coach, at least the 17.
$17.50.
I mean, the definition of a stipend is payment for time worked outside of your normal day. So if they're going to competitions during the day, that's not, but when you're going to a football game, you don't get home till midnight, and you come back up on Saturday and you work, and Sunday and you work, that's what the stipend is for. So when you're comparing that, you know, when you're looking at some of these people, you know, they go to an event, like there's one particular person on here who doesn't do anything after school with the people, but they still get a stipend. I don't understand that, because the stipend is there to reimburse you for personal time spent outside of the salary of your work. So, you know, like, you know, tell me if it's too personal, but NHS, you know, we just now added that NHS induction literally this week. So, I mean, that stipend would help pay for the hours they spent after school planning for that, setting up for that. It's not a lot, it's not a big stipend, but NHS should have, you know, they should be, I don't know, working a food bank or going out and doing volunteer hours. That's to help compensate. You know, we had student council sponsored the trash on the highways that one school participated in, one school didn't. That's what that's there to reimburse you for. So when you're looking at these stipends, it's how much time they're spending outside their contract time. So
we don't have to vote on this tonight.
No, we don't have to. There is an agenda item for compensation plan if we want to. And if you wanted to vote for it, and we could make it amend that we're gonna move TSA to 1750, if that's what you wanted to do, or we can bring it.
I mean, I would, you know, he brings up a good point. I'd like to see what it looks like if you put in those numbers, how that affects our budget.
So, I mean,
Lanny can put those in, can you not?
well, it's only 750 for 4
2250.
people, so, yeah.
It won't.
No,
Okay.
it's,
And I'm not here to cut anybody down. My question's about why they're making it is just a question of, you know, I think we have 7 athletic coaches who all coach 3 sports, and we have 5 band directors. Compared to 270 some odd kids in athletics, 50 kids in band. So, well,
80.
huh?
80.
High school? Okay, well, and, my bad, so,
Not 250.
no.
I can make it balanced, and I can find that little bit of money somewhere.
Okay.
But that may be a conversation with some of our athletic director or our band director of going forward. This is something we need to be aware of. If, you know, the one band I'm talking.
I visited, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I visited with both the middle school and the high school principal about that.
So
I
what are
know.
you saying what are you saying?
The TSA coaches should go up to the 1750.
I was just saying, I'm not recommending we cut anybody, right? At least not now. You know, there's always that case, like Dr. Torres said, if somebody left. You know, there's that option of recouping some of that
Yeah.
here and there. But
But it's hard.
my discussions aren't for everybody listening. It isn't to go in and start reducing stipends on anybody, but it is going forward. You know, we looking at some of those programs, and not necessarily success as in competition, but success as in the number of kids in the program, the number of, you know, is it going up every year? You know, can we justify the number of, you know, the amount of money we're spending on them?
Okay.
Do we have a consensus of the TSA coach going up 1750?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I have another question, but it's
Microphone.
on a different subject.
Microphone.
Okay, I have another question, but it's on a different subject line. And it is something that's been brought up by this board already before. Why do the ESL secondary teachers get paid $1,500 and the elementary ESL teachers get $500? Because I'm telling you, when you're in a ESL class in elementary, you're with them all day, and you're held to the same standards, and oftentimes the students aren't ready for the same standard. But there's $1,000 difference, and that was brought up to the last HR director too, and he said, "I don't know why it shouldn't be that way." He said that to us, so I'm just curious to know why do they get paid more? I mean, is there a reason? I mean,
I
between
can't
the high
speak
school and
directly to the
elementary.
history of how that came up with. I do know at the you know, bilingual, you serve the students through 5th grade, and then after that, then they move into ESL, depending on when they came, you know, to the country to learn the language, etc. And so typically, as we know, we're always short bilingual teachers, right? We have to get waivers all the time.
Well, this is ESL. My
Right.
wife's the ESL. She's retiring. There are no ESL teachers left in pre-K. Pre-K's got to find one to get certified to be ESL. They only get 500. The high school ESL teachers, which is
Get
just a
1,500.
certification now, this is not bilingual, are getting 1,500 in the middle and high school. At the primary and elementary, they get 500.
Microphone, please.
That's a big difference. Why would there be that big difference?
Yeah, I'm asking, what is why would they need more at the high school than at elementary school?
I don't have that answer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that when they go to
It's
high
just the
school.
way we've always done
Yeah,
it.
maybe, but all I can speak to is that just as a high school principal, Mr. Gatewood can probably speak this well, is that when students go to the high school, they begin to be pushed out more, right? As they're in an ESL class for maybe a period or two, and then they go to all the rest of theirs, okay? I don't know why, but typically at the primary level is if you've got kids in the bilingual education class, okay, then they're all being serviced there. You normally don't have great numbers of students that are ESL at the elementary level.
I think I know
But,
better.
but I don't know, like I said, the history of how that all was constructed, yeah. But I just know
Okay,
that
so
historically,
Greg, are you
that's the way it
asking
was.
for us to maybe
Well,
meet in the
I'm not
middle
sure.
and bring it down or add more? Is that what you're asking?
Either lower it or, I don't know why they're unequal like that. Why don't you compromise at 1,000? Same pay, basically. Well, it'd be a little bit more. There's 30.
Does it come down
elementary.
to certification?
It's
You have to
yeah,
get-
it's
Cause
just a one
elementary-
test.
cause-
ESL has to get a certification.
Well, but it could be bilingual certified, isn't it? Is it?
The bilinguals get a $5,000. This is the
Bilingual is
ESL.
different than ESL.
Yeah, no.
That's what I was explaining. ESL, those students, most of them, now my wife has had students that didn't speak any English
Right.
in her ESL classes, and those are even more difficult, but, not saying they're bad kids, it's hard to teach an English class to someone that doesn't speak English, English speaking class.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is when that was created, because typically at the primary, elementary level, a student is in a bilingual education class, okay, and then they transition out. If you don't have that, obviously you have to get waivers for teachers that don't have their bilingual certification. They may have their ESL piece, you're right, but those numbers are usually much smaller.
Isn't ESL required?
Yes,
I mean, don't you have to have your ESL certification?
You have to have your bilingual.
well, we
No, I
used
mean,
to have,
for the primary.
every
In the
teacher
elementary
used,
level, don't you have to have
every
that
teacher
ESL
used
supplement?
to
If those
have it,
kids
but
are
we
going
quit
out
doing
into
that.
your classroom, yes.
Asking why the primary and the elementary ESL is a $500 stipend, and the middle school and the high school is a $1,500 stipend. What's the difference? I mean,
I'm
besides
just giving why I think that was done that way, but I wasn't here when that happened.
36?
No, that's 36 teachers.
36 in the first, up to sixth
Well,
grade,
and
and then there's 20 after that.
Isn't that all the teachers?
Yeah, that's all the teachers.
Well, I mean, that's,
That may be the reason
no,
why they.
that's at primary and elementary. There's more than
No.
36 teachers at just those two
No,
campuses.
Teresa is the only ESL teacher in say pre-K, or what is now.
I think
And there's
just
6 or
English
7
has to
of them.
have the ESL supplement, right? Just language arts?
We used to. the district
Yep,
used
yes,
to
Mr.
make
Gatewood says
all
yes.
teachers
I'm just
have
trying to
ESL.
justify, if there's 36, if it's just the language arts teachers have to get the ESL supplement, and you're only paying the ESL supplement to those 36 teachers, it's not counting all the other teachers, your art teachers and the social studies and science teachers.
Same certification, Randall. Teresa.
But they're
could-
required to get, but if you're language arts, you're required, or if you're primary or you're language arts, you're required to get the ESL supplement.
Well,
I
if
think
you
that
work in
five-
any, if you work in any elementary, if you work in any elementary or primary, you're supposed to be ESL plus your content area certified. So yes, we have to get waivers, just like we said, because we don't have them.
For the ESL?
Yes, because we don't have enough. I mean,
But your math teachers don't have to have the ESL supplement at the elementary.
right, but he's saying at the primary, let's just look at the primary, they teach everything in that one class. They teach everything. So he's saying, why are they only getting $500 when at the middle school and high school, they get to go out and those teachers say,
I know what he's asking.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to justify why we're paying only 36 people and why we're paying
The catch to
$500.
that is, no matter what you teach, Randall, you're certified, right? Any ESL teacher, if you're a first grade teacher or a 12th grade teacher, once you pass that ESL, my wife you can pass a general certification for ESL that covers K
That's a
through
supplement,
12.
yeah.
K through 12, it's all of them.
Right.
So it's the same supplemental, and you're still got your own certification in what you teach in high school or elementary. You know,
it's the same test.
I completely understand the question. I mean, I
and I
understand.
don't see the difference. What the
I was just trying to justify why, but that was
I
not
think
going over well.
I personally believe it got started because maybe the high school principal was having troubles getting teachers, so we decided to pay an extra $1,000 to them.
Okay, so Greg, are you asking that we meet in the middle and maybe do
Well, I think
1,000 for everybody, or are you asking
Well,
that?
Times 40?
as far as I'm concerned, you can just leave it like that if you want. I mean, but it's not. I don't think it's right. Because
If we moved
it's been an issue
BPS
for a
and
while.
VES up to 1,000, that's gonna cost us $18,000.
Yeah, because you got 36, I think
Mhm.
it said.
I think we have to be consistent, though. So if we're looking at one thing and
Yeah,
we're like,
you're-
oh, well, let's raise this because of this, and it's only 4 people, but we've got 30 here, we can't afford that. I mean, it sounds like the right thing to do, but we can't afford that. I think we need to be consistent in what we're doing, and I'm not a fan of, in this stage of the game, us also looking and taking stipend money away from people.
Yeah,
Right,
'cause I was
right.
about to
Because
say-
they will start exiting immediately.
Because I was
So
about-
if to raise it to 1,500 for those 36 is 36,000.
I make the recommendation of this, that I don't want to say table, but there may be a reason that we just don't know. There could be a reason your elementary principal and your primary principal and your high school principal and middle school could be able to tell you the reason we give $500 here and there. They're not asking. They're not. So I don't know. There may be a very reasonable reasoning why that is like that we just don't know here, and we're trying to make something equal that may
Yeah.
not be equal. Maybe it's.
Well, the old HR
Well, here
said
you
that
go.
he
I'm gonna
he
put him
didn't
on the
know
spot. I'm gonna put him on the spot.
why. I was
What?
gonna say
Is he employed yet?
Teachers often have a wide range of responsibilities and may not focus solely on content instruction in a second language, while high school teachers, on the other hand, often have a more specialized focus on the subject matter and may be compensated with stipends that acknowledge their specialized knowledge and dedicated to a specific field. So high school has more.
Oh.
Is
And high
there
school
a
does
bilingual
TELPAS.
program at the middle school?
High school is responsible for TELPAS testing.
The 1,500 is at VMS and VHS.
Did phone a friend
Okay.
before you?
No, I did not use my phone during the meeting.
But do you know in prior districts, because I don't know the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, usually elementary gets less than.
Is it like $1,000? I mean, is it a big difference?
TELPAS, I remember, just remember, TELPAS testing is it's very.
Got you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so let me go ahead on to my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. So if you go down to where it is, let's just go to district stipends. We have a district stipend for Avid Site Coordinator and Avid Excel Coordinator. So what are the difference between the Avid Site Coordinator and Avid Excel Coordinator?
Dr. Torres, can I call a friend? Do you have an
Yes.
answer to that? 'Cause,
So, the Avid Excel, what we've done, is that we have, just like we talked about, students that are doing ESL, we've combined that. They're learning to get better in reading, get stronger in those areas. So you have someone that's doing Avid, which is embedded throughout the district, okay? So they're doing Avid, but these are basically Avid students that are ESL. That's the difference. Instead of them being separately in a separate Avid class, we've combined that together, and it's called Avid XL, which is our Spanish-speaking students that are in ESL that are in that Avid class.
Ready for the next
It-
question? Or are you
no,
done? All
No,
right.
I'm not done yet. Okay, also mentor teachers, it says paid in May. It has nothing there. do we have mentor teachers that we're not paying? Are we not?
So when it says like paid in May, they're getting their full $500 in one check in May, versus most of these stipends are split out between their 12 payments.
Right, but we don't have any, like if you look at it where it says mentor teacher, it says number stipends, it says paid in May. It doesn't have a number.
Yes, because I did not have a number, so then therefore the Excel doesn't carry out over there.
Okay, go ahead, Randall.
Department chairs, middle school had four at $4,000, or a period. High school has 8. There's still, but I don't know how many departments are there at the high school. You got 4 cores.
Where do you see middle school? I'm sorry.
Middle school's got 5, I believe.
Campus department chair, 5, you're right. So I'm just trying to figure out the difference between 5 and 8. Most of your fine arts directors get a stipend already for being fine arts. So why would we double stipend them?
Under
Again, I don't want to take money away
district.
from anybody. I'm just questioning why we have what we have. I mean,
What are you comparing? I'm sorry, I see the.
well, the middle school has, as far as core, I don't know what the 5th core is at the middle school, but you got math, science, social studies, and English. Each one of those has a department chair. They're responsible for their department.
But which one, what other campus?
High school has 8. So,
Where
but
are we?
CTE gets a stipend for CTE. Fine arts gets a stipend
Number 8 anywhere.
It's right here. It's under
under district
district.
stipends.
Oh,
It's under district for some, I mean, it didn't go under high school, but
okay. Oh, I see, okay.
it's in the middle, just,
I got you. I found it.
again, at this point, we're not looking at subtracting these stipends. That's just a question of, as people.
Is 8 really the actual number? Is that the question?
Yeah, I
just
think
wanna know
that is
how
the
many-
question.
There's only really four departments that need a department chair, because department chair is responsible for your, what's our program we're doing, where they meet every day and.
No, it's every Monday's the,
Included in here is CTE and fine arts, but that's just.
That's what I'm saying, but so in your department, they're having department chair meetings to talk about
The
basically
seven-
course, like your fine arts doesn't do, what is it?
what is that
What is
program?
that?
The seven steps or
Seven
something?
Mindset?
Seven mindset.
It's
There
not
you go.
seven mindsets. PLC. PLC. So your core classes do PLC
Good
times,
job, you
your
said that
department
before.
chairs oversee their departments and their PLC times. Fine arts doesn't do PLC, CTE doesn't do PLC, so I'm wondering, we give $4,000 back. When we gave that stipend is because of all the extra duties we ask out of our department chairs of our core subjects. Again, not asking to take away money, I'm just trying to justify why we're giving 3 other people department chair $4,000 when they don't run PLCs. They're not really responsible for a department. Your fine arts department has what? Band, art,
Choir.
choir.
And you have sped.
That's not fine arts.
Well, no, hold on, I'm just talking about department chairs, sorry.
CTE, I mean, they're not having PLC meetings and stuff, so I was just curious as to, again, not taking any money away, just,
CTE does PLC, they may,
okay.
we started doing that, I don't know,
Alright.
if that's something.
And then going down to Assistant Principal Academy Coordinator.
Where is that?
That's
Mr.
right
Buck?
below, you had Campus Department Chair under District, then Blended Learning Manager got crossed out.
Mhm.
Right below that, Assistant Principal Academy Coordinator.
I think that in the past was where they had an assistant principal that helped, lead and, had a principal that helped lead and train other principals.
And I know her,
We have 17 of them.
but this says we have 17, that's $34,000 we're spending on.
What?
It's Assistant Principal Academy Coordinator, there's 17 of them at $2,000, that's 34. How many, we have 17 coordinators over the assistant?
I mean, how many assistant principals do we have?
We're gonna call Priscilla real quick.
3.
Landy's gonna step out and call Priscilla real quick and see if she can help shed some light on that one for me.
So we have-
Table that one, so we come back with, of course, no, 17 of them. You have their cell phones?
If you don't, grab my phone.
While we're doing that, what did we decide about the difference between the, ESL?
High school is responsible for telepass, that's why they're getting more.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it as is?
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a question on the administrator phone.
Uh-huh.
So there's 19 people that get the phone stipend.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a phone stipend, do you give out your phone number to other people in the district?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody does? Well, but you're over the whole thing.
Right,
But
yeah.
so everybody gives out their number?
Yes.
That's
Like-
an expectation.
Like Miss Buck has, the principal has my cell phone, my personal
Right.
cell phone number.
Right. Okay, like Mr. Martinez will get a stipend. He'll make sure the principals have his phone number. Everybody has his phone number. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that that is a expectation.
Remember, we bought phones for everybody when you were here. You remember we bought the phones, and then it did cost, it
No.
cost the district, well, it cost the district so
No, I
much
got
more
a
money to have
stipend.
phone plans for everybody than it did.
I just got a stipend.
Did-
I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure that
As
our
long as
internal
we're-
customers get each other's phone numbers.
BlackBerry.
That's what I was about to say, as long as we're paying, if we're paying for it, then that number needs to be
Okay,
used.
can we go on? I just have okay, so we have a let's go to SPED.
Okay.
So I have a head diagnostician, that's cool, 504 coordinator, transition coordinator, vision instruction. We don't have that, so we're not paying that out,
Correct.
okay. Transition coordinator, why do we have a transition coordinator?
Here, Kelly.
The person designated as the transition coordinator is the person responsible to connect families with government agencies, invite those people to our committee meetings. They ensure our compliance because we do have indicator 13. So there is a lot of responsibility in addition to that person being a diagnostician. Now, a diagnostician does not have to be a transition coordinator,
But
but
the
but
diagnosticians can't do that?
they
or-
can. They can. So often you will find that the transition coordinator will be the high school diagnostician because that is where the greatest amount of transition services are provided. And so one of the things our transition coordinator has been doing is coordinating with the Texas Workforce Commission, Pecan Valley. We've been having meetings. In the future, we're going to set up like job fairs, that type of thing. So there are a lot of expectations and some outside the scope of the
So
school day.
what else do they do besides just that? I mean, so that can't take up their whole day. What else do they do?
So are you speaking about the person with the role in particular or
Yes.
just, okay, so that person that has the
So-
role of transition coordinator is the high school diagnostician
Okay.
at this time. As I said, it could be any designee, but it makes sense to have the diagnostician because they're the ones doing the paperwork, the transition supplements in the ARD. They also have to coordinate with because now transition has gone down to the middle school. We have to coordinate to ensure that those folks have been trained correctly on the requirements of the transition supplements. So there's a lot of accountability tied to the transition piece. It's an accountability, that's why it's an important role.
No, I get that.
Okay.
So Donald, you have to be to work at 10, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
At what time do you need to leave here?
Well, I mean, as long as I can get out of here by 10, I'll be okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure we have a good stopping point because I think it's important for everybody to be here when we're doing the budget. So just want to make sure.
I have one more quick thing on the stipends.
Yes.
Fine arts director gets $1,000. What will be the difference between the fine arts director and the fine arts department chair? Or is that just a way to get somebody an extra $1,000 that,
It's under district stipends.
yeah. As the fine arts, campus department chair is the fine arts, is that Mr. Ward?
I'm sorry, I was trying to answer her. He's the band director, okay, but fine arts is not just band, so he's the fine arts director for the district.
Is he also the department chair?
I don't know if there's one for, but that was his question, was what was
Yeah.
other than looking into that to see if they do.
Just redundancy.
And Ms. Peters, say the transition stuff is being completed and we are in compliance with that.
We are currently in compliance, but we have not submitted our indicator for this past school year. But I would anticipate that we will be compliant in indicator 13. We had in our audit, we did find some.
I'm sorry. Right there.
So we did find some non-compliance in our audit, but
With the transition
with
area.
the transition area, but that was more in line with not having people, CTE representatives present and signing off. So we have really emphasized this year to have those CTE representatives. So having that transition coordinator, yes, will help ensure that we stay compliant
Okay, has she been the transition coordinator this whole year?
this whole year.
Any other stipend questions? No? Okay.
All right, I'm gonna switch of how I had it in your packet because I decided after I was doing this that it didn't make sense. So pull the one out that says salary increase cost. All right, so scenario 1, which is a teacher 2% raise only, would actually, with our staff that we have absorbed, would actually be less in payroll by 156,000 and some change from this year.
So
Okay.
giving, with the people that we've absorbed, you're saying with salary 1,
Mhm.
with a 2% raise,
Teachers only.
we're gonna save money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
Yes, because they're all going to be the same process.
Okay.
Scenario 2, teachers 2% raise, all others 1% of midpoint. We would save 127,000.
Would you elaborate on midpoint, because I think before we had some misconceptions of what midpoint was.
Okay, and I should have brought my slides from last time, but so percent of midpoint, the purpose of a midpoint is to, the bottom of that pay scale is gonna get more than a 1% increase, and the top of the pay scale is gonna get a little bit less than 1%. The only person that, or people that are gonna get exactly 1% of midpoint is if you're exactly on midpoint. But everybody in that group gets the same raise. So all the paras, say it's $1 an hour. That's just, for everybody watching, that's just an example. So if paras get $1 an hour, the para that's at the bottom is gonna get $1, but that's a bigger percent. The para at the top is gonna get the $1, or towards the top is gonna get $1, and that's gonna be less than 1%.
Okay, so when you're saying teacher, you're meaning everybody inside the school. You're talking paras and teachers? No.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Just making sure. Because
that-
we got people out there, we gotta make
Yes.
sure.
Administration
the
and
model
support
one.
staff are all in the midpoint. Administration is not on the teacher, librarian, nurse nurse pay scale. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. So scenario 3 is a 2% raise for teachers and all others 2%. That increase is gonna be flat. Or balanced. No, flat, sorry. Teacher scenario 4, no, I can see that my totals just didn't come across. And my calculator person is not here. Warren? Can you add those increases on scenario 3 and tell me what that dollar amount is? And then scenario 4. Please. Yeah. It's gonna be a savings, but I can't do the math in my head. Yeah, the grand total, I think it got cut off.
Total of negative 39,381.
Okay, so scenario 3, we still save some money, just shy of 40,000. Scenario 4?
Seeing positive 28,858.
Okay, so scenario 4 is the first one that costs us a little bit of money with what we've absorbed, so a little over 28,000. Questions on those?
When was the last administration raise? They didn't get a raise back when the teachers got the raise.
Yes, they did. Yes, everybody got a raise.
What was that raise, do you remember?
Yeah.
Was it 3% of the midpoint of the last person that left here before the person came?
Basically. To be honest. I mean, we still, it's a debacle. It's a big mystery.
Administrative, like, teachers get raises
By steps.
by steps.
Yes.
The administration doesn't?
No. If you look in your packet, you've got the pay scales, and you'll see one that says Venus ISD Administrative Professional. So you'll see there that where the teachers get steps, like the elementary principal, you'll see a minimum and a maximum,
Right.
and the mid's right in the middle of that.
Okay, but what the point I'm getting at is
Sorry.
if we have a teacher that's here for 32 years, I'm sure somewhere there's a cap,
Yes.
right? But if you've got a teacher that's here for 8 years and an administrator that we've brought in who's here for 6, 7 years, and we haven't given raises, that teacher's now making more than the principal or the administrator.
They're not making more, but they've gotten an increase through the years where the administrator is not.
Right, where you've had to come through and give everybody a raise to give
Administrator's been here
administrators.
8 years, and we haven't gotten a raise. The administrator's working for the same amount of money they were working for 8 years ago.
Yes.
A teacher gets a small $150 every year for 8 years. So in essence, the teacher has gotten a couple $1,000s in raises over 8 years. The administrator hasn't gotten any.
So I guess my question is, why is that? My educational ignorance, guys, sorry.
So by Texas Education Code, we have to give the teachers are on a step scale.
Okay.
The Education Code doesn't say how we have to pay everybody else.
Okay. We just chose not to, as a district, to put them on the
It's-
same, as that, you just put everybody?
Normally, they're not
Yes.
on a pay scale.
So if every administrator we have right now resigns, and we hire them right back, they would make substantially more money. Or they could leave and go to another job, because now they have 8 years of experience, but you're still paying them like you paid them as a first-year administrator. They can go to Midlothian now with 8 years of experience, and they can make substantially more money, which is why we see the jump.
Well, and I realize that's probably historically hadn't been done, or maybe it's not done in other districts, but is that right? Does that seem? Am I the only one that sees that?
I can just speak
not
from,
right.
depending on the district, and the district I've been in is, sometimes you'll just have a percentage increase, not the step for the teachers, but there'll be a percentage increase for administrators. It may be every other year that you look at them and you give them a 2% and then a 3%. Some districts do it every year, obviously not in the situation we're in right now, but some districts do that. So they basically just do a percentage for administrators, whereas the others, it's a step. That's been my experience.
Well,
over the
I feel
years.
like you, as an administrator, you've done a lot of work. You've been a teacher, obviously, but you've gone out and above and gotten different certifications, more certifications. I realize we pay them more, but I mean, even after a while, if you're a principal for 8 years and you're still making the same thing you made the first year,
Well,
if
you
the
shouldn't
district
be.
didn't give any or wasn't able to give
agree.
across the board raises.
But normally, every few years,
What's
like
the
I think
incentive?
the last time, wouldn't you just say the last time they did a raise here was, I guess, 3 years ago? Well, it'll be going into 4 now, I believe, yes.
Right, but
And
so
they
what's
did
the
a
incentive?
percentage raise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get the.
And I think ultimately, back when I started this, everybody got a raise every year.
Yeah,
But times have changed when the school district's not getting a raise on on their funding from Austin in 6 years, your pie is still the same, but your inflation has gone up. Something has to give. And so,
Our leaders are the ones that give.
and the paras, and that's across the board. I don't know of any of my colleagues that are even coming with what the next sheet says for their districts. I have a
So-
colleague that, they've got to cut $500,000 right off the top, for salaries.
I don't know. It's just, to me, it doesn't seem like much of an incentive to stay somewhere for any amount of long time if I'm not going to get,
But-
if there's no.
But
thought
there's
of
not an
getting a raise.
incentive. Our superintendent salary has increased almost 40%. Our assistant superintendent salary has increased almost 40%. Our CFO salary has increased over 40%. That's because we've hired new ones. There was one, and we hired another one, we hired another one. Every time one comes in, you pay them at their experience level. So if the one we had 3 years of experience, we bring in one has 15 years, they make more money. You superintendent, and we've gone through a few of those, they make more money. But then we punish the administrators who stay a long time by not giving them anything. So the message is, if you want to make more money, everyone resign and then reapply for your job the next day, and you would have to pay it at the.
But
at
I
their
can tell you
experience
that's
rate.
private sector too.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just here. I'm just saying it is private sector. It's the same way. If you leave, if somebody leaves and somebody comes in, you're going to end up probably paying them more than the person that was
Oh, yeah.
there, and the person that was probably doing 4 jobs versus the 2 you're hired, or the person that's going to do 2.
And I don't argue with the system. I just
Yeah.
argue that here in Venus, Texas, in Venus ISD, if we want to retain those people, like Dr. Torres said, it may be a good idea to put a percentage in there, even if it's something, but insurance has gone up $50, $60 a year. If you're still making the same thing you made 5 years ago or 4 years ago, you're losing money because insurance has gone up. You're literally making less now than you did 4 years. I mean, you're giving money back every
No,
year.
I totally agree with you. My point was just, it's not only school.
No,
it's
How would that,
yeah, it's everywhere.
how would that affect, how would putting something like that, I mean, even if it was just to cover, like you said, cover the cost of that insurance change.
So,
or those
so
changes.
scenario 4 has a 3% increase for teachers and a 2% increase for everybody else, from the cafeteria workers to
Every-
administrators,
Okay.
everybody.
And that would be positive 39. That would be plus 39.
From yes.
How does that look
So
on
then,
your, on your balanced budget?
so next page.
Okay, hold on, I'm lost on pages because we're out of order. So what you had, but what-
Revenue and expenses, the one that we set aside.
Page 7.
okay, got it.
I got mine out of order before we started, sorry.
Sorry. All right. So we're just gonna skip to the chase and go to scenario 4.
Okay.
Scenario 4, a 3% increase for teachers and a 2% for everybody else. We can balance the budget.
And that's also with giving the $1,000 one-time.
So that's gonna be separate. So
Okay.
remember, so
But that's within the balanced
Because
budget.
that comes out of
no, that is not
Okay.
gonna, remember, that's not gonna, that 358,000 is not gonna be part of your balanced budget. We're gonna come back in July and approve that, if you choose, approve the retention stipend that would come out of fund balance, because we've put that money into fund balance this year for the short year.
But we're still a balanced budget.
Outside of that, you're a balanced
Okay.
budget outside of that retention stipend.
Okay, so, okay, gotcha. I'm following.
Okay.
That was 2-2. That was scenario 2.
So I skipped scenario 1, 2, and 3, because if scenario 4, we can balance it at a 3% and a 2%.
That's what we said, like, that's the max we can give and balance the budget.
Yes.
Same
And
scenario 4.
this is without House Bill 3 or whatever
Yes.
coming through saying, this is just what the district is doing, not including what everybody else is gonna be getting to, right?
Correct. So if
Got it.
House Bill 2 passes with the Senate, stuff that they have done, then teachers with 3 to 4 years experience will get an additional $5,000, and teachers with 5 years and more would get an additional $10,000 on top of what Venus ISD is doing.
Is that a one-time or is that a continuing?
It is, What they're saying is it's a permanent retention allotment fund.
You will only know every 2 years when there's a session. That's the risk. I mean, we can't control what happens in Austin, but yes. If it
Correct.
passes, right?
And so if this passes, this is gonna be from money that they give us and we're not having to come out of with this money, correct?
Well,
Okay, yeah, I like the
Mostly.
look. I like the look.
so you'll see on that sheet that Amber's got holding up is, what's it titled?
Senate Committee, House Bill 2.
Lanny, do you have one? Because I don't know where mine went.
Here you go, you can have mine. I have it on here too.
So, the 5,000 and 10,000 is great. However, on top of that 5,000 and 10,000, we have benefits that we are going to owe, that Venus ISD is going to have to pay. And the state is not funding that.
Okay.
So, however, we're getting $55 in basic allotment if this all passes as it says today. So we would get an additional 100,000 in regular program allotment and 188,000 in small and mid-size adjustment. That money is basically going to pay for the benefits of what we pay for the teachers. So while it looks like on paper that we have an extra $288,000, we need to say that's a wash and that's really just going to pay for the benefits. Now there is some other special ed will get a little bit of more money on their allotment. They're not going to get more money in their budget because we're already spending more than the 55% in special ed. There is some new money, $72,000 for special ed evaluations. And then that's about the really, if you look at the teacher retention allotment, that number is what TASBO gave for us out of our teachers this year. I don't know where my sheet went because I had, so we have 24 teachers currently on staff there are year 3 and 4, and 138 of our teachers are 5+. So 138 of our teachers would get the 10,000. Yes, Mr. Buck?
So all that's hypothetical talk of the passing of
Yes,
this.
that is all hypothetical.
I just want to clarify, if we go scenario 4, you said there will be we could have a balanced budget.
Yes, sir.
Have we considered 4% of the midpoint for teachers and 4% of the midpoint for administrators? And all others?
I did not, because I thought my task was to bring a balanced budget. And so when I got that balanced at 3% and 2%, then I didn't do anything on top of that because that would be a deficit.
But right now, it's 1, 2, or 3, or 1, 2, 3% period for teachers, not of the midpoint, right?
Teachers are not at the midpoint. So
Right.
teachers, I brought a 2% increase and a 3% increase. And then for midpoints, I did a 0, a 1, or a 2.
Okay. So scenario 4 was 4%, was 3%, straight 3% for teachers, and
Yes.
3% of the midpoint.
2% of the midpoint.
For everybody else, including administrators.
Yeah, that's what it says right here on this one.
And that's what the consensus was that we told her to
No,
bring
no,
a
I-
balanced budget.
Yeah, I was just,
And I also heard that our teachers, we're low paid on the teacher side, so I worked on that with a higher increase.
so scenario 4 is a balanced budget,
Yes, sir.
but that's barely making a balanced budget.
It's okay. It's balanced. I'm not in jeopardy of having a deficit budget.
I mean, it's not like, okay, like 3% of the midpoint, or 3% for teachers and 3% of the midpoint for everybody else.
You mean is there enough fluff in there to do another
Yeah, I didn't know.
1%? I wouldn't want to bring that and tell you that it's a balanced budget when,
You don't know.
Yeah.
But we don't have that much wiggle room to
no.
comfortably work that in.
So you're saying this is comfortable and we're good with this if this is the way we want it to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
We had one question about, what, 17?
Yes,
Oh,
and
did we get
did
that?
we get an answer? We did not get an answer on that, so we'll have to, get back to you on that,
On the stipends.
on the 17 stipends.
So the next thing is to consider approval of the annual compensation. That includes the stipends, correct?
It does.
The stipends, the increases, and then also the retention.
Not the retention. The retention I would bring to you in July.
Oh, okay, okay.
We want to make sure, part of that, I think Mr. Rose said, we will make sure people
Because
that
the
are returning, that are
The
coming back
retention
in
is
August.
given out at, you
uh,
said, the first,
on
at
convocation.
We would like to
of the
do it
first year. Okay.
then. I've seen where districts did it earlier and they lost, people bailed before the 45 days, so, yeah. Right. Yes.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I mean, you also have on here, police and technology.
That's just a copy of the current pay scale. So that was just for your information so that you had what.
You wanna
Okay.
do a little math over there.
Huh?
You wanna do a little math.
Well, I was just making sure, cause.
Yeah, none of those were changed. Those
Okay.
are what's currently, I just pulled those offline.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? We can go to item number 5, consider approval of annual compensation plan for the 25-26 school year. And I do believe we need to call out which one, if you make a motion, which one you're motioning. Yeah, which, well, hold on, scenario.
So, do we need to have that discussion real quick before we, I mean, do we wanna have a consensus, or did somebody just wanna throw a motion
Somebody
out
needs
there?
to just throw a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a motion out that we approve scenario 4, and give me a minute and I'll find what that actually
3%
was.
on teachers, 2% on everybody else.
I'm sorry?
3%.
3% on teachers and 2% on everybody else?
2%
And 2% at the midpoint, that's what I make a motion for.
Okay,
I
so
told you I found my
motion by
paper.
Amber for scenario 4, teacher 3% raise, all others 2% of midpoint. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kirby. All in favor? Motion carries. Item number 6, executive session. We're gonna
I don't wanna go
not do
back.
that.
No,
Let's go.
For your deadline.
Okay.
I'm tired.
We'll go to item number 8, adjourn at 9:56 PM.
We beat our time.